Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are on planet Earth today. My name is Kenny Bazwai, and you are welcome to Kenny Baz World Outreach. First of all, let me apologize for the late start today. We had planned to start a little bit early, but you know how it is with technology and everything. Today is a very, very beautiful, 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 intriguing topic we'll be talking about today. We're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of people has been talking about online and it's been trending. Should children's DNA be requested in the marriage? And we have decided to involve some subject expert people to be part of this. We have from the United Kingdom, we have Dr. Loretta Ogboro Oko joining us from the UK. How are you doing, Doctor? I think you're muted. How are you doing, Doctor?
Good, good evening, GBK, and the other panelists in the house, and to everybody, wherever you are listening from. It's evening on a cold, or night actually, on a cold winter day in the United Kingdom.
Thank
It's
you very
nice to be
much.
here.
Thank you, thank you. And we also have our next panelist that's joining us, which is a community advocate, the vice president of the Nigeria Canadian Association Toronto, Mr. George Chukwu, joining us from Toronto. Mr. George, how are you today?
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Chukwuetu, as you have heard, the Vice President of Nigerian Canadian Association, also the host of Global Access, entertainment show. I just want to welcome everybody here this evening, and also a warm welcome to my co-hosts tonight.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We also have here from Toronto another mega house lady, a powerhouse lady, Mrs. Winnie Osage. She is the president and CEO of Winnie's Women. We allow her to introduce herself better because, you know, nobody can actually do an introduction as anybody can do to themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Mrs. Winnie Osage. How are you
Hello,
doing
thank you
today?
so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenny, and to our viewers out there. My name is Mrs. Winifred Osage. I am the president of Win Women International, Win Women Shelter, and I'm also the first lady of the Godsend Foundation worldwide. I'm so pleased to be here, and to my co-panelists, I say a very big welcome, and to the viewers, I believe that we're gonna have an interesting time, an informative time tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I know that we are all synchronized together now. The topic we are talking about today is something that is maybe our producer want to put four of us, all of us in the screen so that people can see all of us and see where all of us are coming from. The topic we are talking about today is a very sensitive one, and as God may have it, we have two men and two women in this manner, which makes it really fun. But I'm not sure what the producer did. We have two women aligning together, and two men aligning together. I don't know if that's an INEC Nigeria INEC move. But however, we are here now, and we're going to do our best. Mr.
Yeah.
George, I'm going to start
Yes.
from you. As a community leader, an advocate, also what we call OAP on air personnel, should DNA be requested in a marriage? When I say in a marriage, I mean you are married, you have children, and then what next? You all of a sudden you want a DNA.
Well, I will answer that question different sides. Are we coming from a cultural standpoint, or traditional standpoint, or social standpoint? Are we coming from a spiritual standpoint, as in religious standpoint? Because the question is very relative and depending on the time when the DNA is being requested, because there are so many things that could be in question at this particular moment. But if you're coming from a social standpoint, I'm going to start from there, whereby marriages these days have really come down to the point where it's, not a Hollywood kind of marriage where people are really not really committed to the separateness of the marriage. Indeed, if that is the point, yes, there might be a time when, if the husband is doing his own thing and the wife is doing, her own thing, and there is really no trust in the relationship, then there could be a yes situation whereby, because there is no trust, therefore you can request for DNA. But when it comes from a religious standpoint, or what I call a Christianity standpoint, where the marriage is between only one wife and one woman until death do you part, and trust is really the foundational key there. I don't think that that's acceptable in that particular case, because two has become one flesh in this particular case. Now, if we are coming from also from a cultural standpoint, uh, it's questionable whether that should be allowed, because from a cultural standpoint, both of you has become one, and you are supposed to be trusting one another. There ought to be some kind of confidence that is taking place in that in the marriage. So yes and no is my answer.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to hear from Dr. Loretta as a physician, and I know yes we are all here in diaspora, but guess what? You're also a mother, a woman. What is your take on this?
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Chuku for his very um, nice categorization, but apparently he left out possible medical reasons why people may want a DNA. And in the medical field, if I just add that to what he has said, sometimes it becomes necessary. Maybe you want to double check some um, genetic diseases, or there are things you want to find out medically. Now, the morality of having DNA tests is probably what you are asking me to comment on. And the truth is, when it is outside of a necessity, i.e., medical, sometimes travel reasons, some countries, when you are migrating, they do ask for DNAs. Um, I don't think that for social reasons, DNA is necessary. And this is my honest opinion. And I'm saying this from a position of experience, a position of having spoken to a number of people, and a position of having seen what this kind of tests can cause. I think from a social point of view, or a random societal point of view, what we've seen in the past few days or weeks on social media, um, I think it's just not necessary, because being a father or a mother is not only a biological thing. You can, fatherhood is, it doesn't mean because you produced sperm or egg that you are fulfilling the criteria for motherhood and fatherhood. There's a lot of psychology involved in it. And we must also remember, before we start castigating people, that there are individualized and varied circumstances. And sometimes, in my experience as a medical practitioner, I've seen where men have infertility problems and women go out, even sometimes with the consent of these men, to have children outside. But when quarrels set in, or the harmony is broken and the center cannot hold, then the issue goes into the public domain. And those who were not there when these agreements were contracted start to be judge and jury. So we need to be very careful. And in my opinion, as far as you trust your partner and there is no medical reason for it, no official reason for it, I don't think you should be having a DNA test. If we all tested ourselves, tested our mothers and our fathers and all our siblings, you'll be surprised what we'll find.
On the note of surprise, I want to go to Mrs. Osage. How are you doing today? I see you almost looking like you're taking notes and so on. I am curious on how which angle you're going to come in. You are a very religious lady, a community leader, and an influencer. As a woman that is representing a huge network of women, what is your take on this?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kenny. And of course, I gladly welcome every opinion from every other panelist on here today. And of course, we cannot all have the same perspective on every issue. And for me personally, I would like to come in from the religious point of view, just from the spiritual point of things. And, when I was basically, I'm a science student. I want to start by saying that I have a BSc in physiology. And so when the whole issue of the whole DNA thing came to be, I was like, okay, let me just go back and take a look, not just for, the knowledge of book or exams. And I found out that the very first person who used DNA testing was for a criminal investigation. And that was in 1984. So I'm saying that to say, as the word of God says in Second Timothy, that in the last days, even as we're beginning to see that a lot of people become lovers of themselves, lovers of money, lovers of this world, a lot of people get into marriages for the wrong reasons. And so, in my own opinion, in my very humble opinion, I would like to say yes, that a DNA test, especially when there's no trust between a couple, should be something that's important. It should be absolutely carried out. And, I mean, it's not normal for you to have a, should I say, a home or a marriage where both parties trust each other, and then the issue of a DNA test just springs up from nowhere, and the woman is fretting, and she's beginning to say, "Oh, if I do this, that means you don't love me. That means you don't trust me. That means the marriage is over." The Word of God, I mean, also says that a clear conscience fears no accusation. So, if that for any reason at any time should come up, I don't see why a person who isn't guilty should, fret or start making a fuss
But
or
but
start
but
to
talking about that should come up, Mr. George and
Yes.
Dr. Loretta. You both mentioned, mostly Dr. Loretta, in your submission, you mentioned about trust. That if once you are together, don't you think, in your experience, have you seen scenarios where that has impacted the trust in the family?
I have seen real life scenarios where a couple, a man asked for a DNA test. And after doing the DNA test, he turned out he was the father of that baby. And the wife never forgave him for dissing her trust, for thinking that she wasn't trustworthy, for doubting her at all. He was even worse because this is a man who is a philanderer, a man who is a flirt. And at the end of the day, he came home and accused his wife of
Wait,
being
wait, wait,
unfaithful.
wait a minute. You keep a man. The way you were saying a man is a lot
No,
of
I'm not
emphasis.
saying all men. I said
Okay.
a man. Okay, let's get it. I'm telling you a real life story here. Okay, I'm not making this up. So at that point, the wife was very upset. She wasn't happy. For the rest of her life, she wasn't happy. Okay, and that broke that marriage. Now, people came and spoke to her and said, forgive. The Bible says forgive and, move on. And she said she had forgiven and she'd moved on. But she doesn't see how the man can really ever trust her again. And then she asked a simple question. What if it was the other way around? Would she have been forgiving and would people have said move on? Again, let's be very, very careful. I think because I see these things in real life play out, our societies, especially the Black ethnic minority societies, if I use our home country, Nigeria, for instance, male infertility is something that is really covered up. Okay. And you have women in marriages for ages. I've seen many men, my friends, they tell me the wife at home hasn't had a child for eons. And maybe they've gone for different investigations. And these men sometimes don't go. Infertility is a couple disease, but you find out sometimes these men don't go. And then you find out he comes home and says, a side chick has had a child for me. Most times I just smile and I laugh because the probability that if the woman in the house hasn't given you a child and you are telling me that woman was fine, nothing was found, and you haven't gone, the probability that the child outside is not yours is high. So if 10 years down the line, you leave that wife number one and marry wife number two, and 10 years down the line, you find out those children are not yours, who to blame? Who to blame? And
So
like I said, some people enter intentional contracts on covering up. Women, especially of Nigerian descent, African descent, tend to cover up for their male egos, the egos of the men around them. So sometimes they even agree. But when it goes burst, the woman is blamed. And these are real life scenarios.
I see Mr. George trying to come in from a different angle, and let me say this clear. I'm just moderating. So, Mr. George, sometimes you may feel alone because you see the two women are there, but don't worry, I got your back. Let's go. What do you have in mind? How do you come into this, knowing that first of all, I also know, I'm sure I did not read that on my open remark that you are also a man of God. You are a pastor and are happy. Looking at it from the religious part of it and a community part of it now, you kind of wear a double hat. So compare and contrast the scenario, the bank scenario, the man that died, the little children, and the community and everything. Do you agree? Do you think it's actually right just to save the credibility of that wife? Because should it turn out that you are not, you are the father, the woman may never be happy with you, and she would think you don't trust her. Should you just let go and let it slide under the bus?
Well, from a social standpoint, I mean, I'm talking about like Nigerian, social standpoint, what just happened not too long ago. It is a very sad situation. And also, I have experienced not too long ago, maybe about a year or two ago, I went to, a lounge. And so while we were sitting down just discussing, a man came in and was almost, just dropped in the chair and was almost fainting and was asking for some drink. So later on, the guy who owns the lounge came in and said, "Oh, Oga, you're here?" And he said, "Yes, yes." So, Oga, just take it easy. I'm coming. I'll know what you like. I'll bring it to you. So they brought a bottle of drink for the guy. And the guy just took two big shots of Hennessy and gulped it and bent over like this and was shaking his head. So anyway, the guy came in and sat with him, and he was like, "What is going on, sir? I'm so sorry to hear all of it." The man was so distraught. He wanted to die. He wanted just the ground to open up. They got 4 kids, and he came to Canada, and then started applying for for them to come in, and there was a requirement to do these tests. And when the tests were done, he discovered that 3 of the kids were not his. Only one was his. And this guy did not know what to do. He was like, "What do I do? How can I look at these children again?" And then I came to Dr. Loretta's standpoint. I was advising the man, listen, the point about this situation is just simply because you submitted your sperm to a woman to be pregnant does not make you a dad. These young children already see you as their father. You might not be the one that actually your gene might not be the one, or your seed might not be the one that created them. But consider what you would do to these children if they were to find out. How would you think it would destroy them completely? And we advised him. It was a very difficult situation for the man, to encounter. And number one, don't forget, breach of trust is something that can destroy somebody, like what we are seeing right now with this individual that just dropped dead. Many people might not even understand it because, so to me, yes, indeed, there are some medical reasons whereby two couple might decide, okay, this is the way we ought to do it, simply because let's hide my situation or whatever it is. But because of the social status of Nigeria today, and I am so sorry for the two ladies that are here. You guys are exceptions, and a lot of other ladies are exceptions to this. But generally in Nigeria, the moral code has been destroyed. I am so serious. It is it used to be, when I was younger, I was in the US, they used to encourage me, go back home and find you a wife. Go back home. This is where you go, and you find somebody who is going to be there for you, a trustworthy woman. I don't think it is that way these days. And everybody that wants to go back to Nigeria to get married, the only thing I'm telling them is only God will give you the right woman. Pray. Don't just go and pick up a beautiful face. Don't just go and pick up a family because this is this family or whatever. Because you can come from a very perfect family. Some of them are the worst. So in essence, really, when a young lady begins from secondary school and then begin to experience some of these things that they're experiencing in Nigeria, all of a sudden, after many years, your parents might not even know what you're doing.
So
And then you get married.
I'm going to
You
come
get
in.
married to a man. What happens to them is really nothing to go out there and do whatever they want to do.
So I'm going to come in. I'm going to piggyback on what you're saying, and then kind of loop it back to Mrs. Osagi. You mentioned something that why are you afraid if everything is good? Why not just do it if the man wants? You think DNA should be something that is normal and it should be accepted. So, Dr. Loretta, let's take it as piggybacking on what the Vice President of Nigeria Canadian Association has said, that the moral conduct is disrupted. They are no longer the way it is. So, why will you not just say, okay, in that case, why, if you have nothing to hide? By the way, those guys that are commenting on social media, we are seeing you all. We're going to read your comments soon, and we'll open the lines for people to call in. But I just want to drill down a little bit now. Why will you not say it's as simple as ABC? Let us say, though, if you don't have it, they said clean conscience, fear no accusation. I see Madam even echoing why I'm saying it. So it means I have 1/2. So, Dr. Loretta, do you not think this could be a case of clean conscience, fear no accusation?
First of all, I'm going to answer your question, but to Mr. Chuku, a lot of things you said are true, but I beg to disagree with Nigerian women, morality going down in Nigeria. Morality is going down everywhere in the world. It's not limited to just the Nigerian woman. Let's not vilify the Nigerian woman here. In fact, the Nigerian woman is a prisoner of culture, a prisoner of stereotypes, a prisoner of not being able to
Whoa,
express
whoa, whoa,
herself.
whoa, whoa! A
Okay,
prisoner of
so no,
culture.
no, no,
That
no,
is
it's
heavy.
true. It's true. And then I have worked in Nigeria and I have worked abroad. I have worked with women for the greater part of my post-university days till now. And that's a long time. That's about 20 years. And I'm telling you something, Penny. If a woman wants to deceive you, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Anywhere in the world. That's the truth. Let's be honest. Let's not keep saying Nigerian women. Anywhere in the world. I work with women here. But at the same time, let's be careful. Because if a woman doesn't want to deceive you, there's also nothing you can do about it. So let's be very practical. And the law says that it is better to let one criminal go than to accuse people falsely.
So you will say, go ahead.
So I think that if we've got trust issues, that is when people even start to think about DNA in a social context. When it's not medical and when it's not legal, illegal. A man has died, there are like 13 children, and he said everybody must do a DNA before they partake in my will. So that's completely a different setup. But if you are in a relationship, if you are married, you're in a conjugal relationship, and all of a sudden you come home one day and you're asking for a DNA, something's wrong. Something's wrong in the sense that you don't trust that person. Something's happened. Something's triggered it. And if
So
something has triggered it,
are you saying we should go back now to the source of, like,
there is, Kenny, I don't want to lose my train of thought. Let me just end in this sentence. There is something we practice in obstetrics, and that is if you want to do a screening test, i.e., for instance, I want to do a Down syndrome screening test. And at the end of the day, I'm Catholic and I don't do abortion. I don't do feticide. I'm not going to do anything about the outcome of that test. Why are you screening? That's the question. So if you are doing a DNA test and you know that you love your wife, you love these children, you've come to embrace fatherhood, why are you asking for a DNA test when it's not medically inclined, it's not legally inclined? It is only maybe if it's legally or medically inclined that is worth it.
So I
And
want.
sometimes you may do it and it is not even right. In rare cases, there are errors as well. So I'll leave it here and let
Uh,
other people
uh,
talk
uh,
about it.
before, okay, go ahead. Before you go, Mr. George, I would like Mrs. Usagi to weigh in on this because you also said that, clean conscience. I'm just, kind of paraphrasing, using my own word, shouldn't fear accusation. But don't you feel that the lady or the person in question will feel like, why are you doubting me? And afterwards, if the child happens to be the legitimate child of that man, there's going to be a fracas.
I personally believe, first of all, I mean, I really appreciate the views of the other panelists on here and saying that if you do not, if it's not your seed, if it's not, your actual biological child, it doesn't mean you cannot be a father. But I am of the opinion that every man who has biologically fathered a child has the right to know if that is his biological child. If we want to go adopt children, if we want to go help kids who are less fortunate, or house kids who are orphans, that is a totally different issue. But for a man who is giving his seed to a woman with the trust or belief that this is his child, I feel like if for any reason and at any point in the relationship there is a reason for distrust, he has the right to know if that is his seed or not, regardless if his responsibilities as a father are going to continue or not. But he has the right to know if that is his seed, spiritually speaking and biologically speaking as well, because there are medical implications, there are genetic implications, just so on and so forth. So I am of the opinion that every man has the right to know if a child is actually from his loins. And also, the issue of a fracas, the issue of maybe quarrels or troubles in the home after the test is requested. I think, after the test, if, for example, I were to have kids and for some reason my husband comes home and is like, babe, I think we need to do a DNA test. Um, First, I would be like, okay, what happened? Did you hear something? Did somebody say something to you? But me as a person, because I'm very straightforward, I don't like to beat about. I would say it's fine. We go do the test. I'm saying what I would do and what I really feel like a woman who has nothing in her closet should do. Do the test and then discuss what it is that made him come home suddenly to demand for a test. Whether or not the children are his, right? So why is the issue of a DNA test such a big problem? I mean, it's there for a reason,
Mr.
correct?
George,
And also the socioeconomic gap, especially in Africa, and if we want to look at the level of poverty, especially in Africa now, not even just relating to African women, if we want to look at that, I would say there is every need for us to do this DNA test, because we see a situation where women are using pregnancy to try to tie down men who are successful financially, and a lot of other cases like that, not only streamlining it to Africa or Nigeria but all around the world. But if we want to look at the opportunities that are available to both men and women, especially in Africa, Nigeria per se, of course there's such a huge gap. And so now we see where rich men are escape routes for women out of poverty, out of a life that they feel they deserve more. So at this point I would like to say, of course, I still stand my ground, and I would like to encourage a DNA test if for any reason you have a doubt, or if you just want to know. And also, in my last message, I said there could also be, maybe medical errors. Especially in Africa. I just like to use Africa as a case study because clearly I'm from there, and a lot of the things that I have experienced are from there as well, or people from there. We have hospitals where they don't have tags for the babies, or they mix babies up, or even still for the greed of money and for the love of money, for the love of this world, some nurses, some medical practitioners are being paid to switch babies up. And even for, let's say, the gender situation, for example, Nkechi might have a son and someone else who has had 5 daughters is wanting a son. They might pay the doctor or the nurse a huge amount of money to switch the baby up. So, along the line, maybe when the child is 5 and the baby starts developing some kind of ailment or some character traits that are not particular to either of the parents, at that time, of course, even a mother should be able to say, okay, okay, I think I need to do this, you know. So I really don't think the DNA test should call for any fracas in a home. And even if maybe trust is the issue, it's something that can be discussed and it can be worked on. That's how I feel. That's my opinion.
Wow, beautiful. I see Mr. George wanted to weigh in. I do have a way to bring the Dr. Loretta in, but I want Mr. George to weigh in first. But before you weigh in, if you're watching on Facebook, please share, tag, follow us, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Comments, because we're certainly going to be reading all your comments here on that's coming out on Facebook. But guess what? We have a surprise for you guys today. If you're just watching us for the first time, we recently just launched our app on Apple. So go on the Apple Store and look for GBKM and download the app. But it's not done there. Once you download the app, take a screenshot and email it to admin@gbkm.fm. Let me say it again, admin, ADMIN, at gbkm.fm. Send your screenshot there. You will enter a draw that will be drawing on Sunday for a $50 credit card, a $50 gift card. So wherever you are in the world, you can use it from anywhere in the world. So download the app now. Send it to the email admin@gbkm.fm. Now, for those that are watching on Facebook, let's quickly say this: if you agree that a DNA should be something to practice in your matrimonial and in your marriage, say yes. If you disagree, say no. So let me see your comment. We want to see your impact. I want to be able to hear what you're saying, if you're saying yes, if you're saying no. Mr. George, I'm bringing you in as a guy in on this panel, and I see the angles which you have come in, and I know you wanted to butt in now, so please go ahead.
Well, anyway, I thank Winifred for that assertion that she just made. I believe that there is a common level of understanding between a husband and a wife in regards to having confidence in one another. That's what we call I trust, but I do want to verify. For some of the reasons why she mentioned. Also, there are other areas that needs to be considered, and I believe that Dr. Loretta might even give us a little bit more insight in this. And this is what you call super fecundation or fecundation. I don't know whether that's a way to pronounce that. And this is where a woman could actually conceive with two eggs from two different men all at the same time. Like maybe they had intercourse today and then tomorrow she goes and have an intercourse with another man and another egg, receives that sperm and twins will come out with two different fathers. That could be one reason why when one of them might be having a different DNA that might not match the dad and so on and so forth. And another area of it is called, chimera or chimera, whereby an individual, one person can have two DNA simply because of whatever that could happen. But these are rare. So under normal circumstances, the DNA test is 99.9%. That's what we understand. But anyway, I'm coming from this standpoint based on, what has been happening around the world. 20 years ago, being a homosexual is not something that is so easily acceptable in North America or in Europe. But today, such things have become like something you can't even rise up and say anything. Even if from a religious standpoint, a lot of people, shy away from it. But, so what I'm saying in marriages today, it depends on two individuals, the way that they trust one another or the way that they feel about their relationship. I believe if need be, for medical reasons or for whatever the case might be, that somebody might be able to say, okay, honey, I think we need to go and do a test, DNA test. But also, I have to sound a warning, like Dr. Loretto just did. It could become a dire situation where there was absolute trust in a relationship, and because of the demand to do a DNA test, that relationship could be dead. if there is not a common level of understanding between the two before that, even the request was made. So I am still, based on what is going on in our societies today, that yes, indeed, it is something that two a couple, but to even discuss that okay, we're going to do a DNA test. Are you asking DNA test because you want to ensure that the child is yours? Because if that is the case, that means you believe that your wife might have, gone somewhere and done something. So that's actually breaking that, trust that you're supposed to have. So that is the warning that I will have in that area. But, I still stand. I know that one says yes, another one says no. I stand on yes and no, depending relative to the condition of
Yeah,
things.
but let me now throw back to Dr. Loretta. In your experience, your medical experience, do you not think it's of a solid ground to say that there could be errors during childbirth, for example, proper tagging? As Mrs. Osage said, that it could even be for financial reasons where people are swapping children and so on and so forth. Don't you think that's a sufficient ground to say it is a thing that should be done in a matrimonial? Speaking from your experience.
You see, let's be very careful. I've been using this word. Let's be careful. And let's try and individualize cases and take them on their own merits. I'm saying this thing because for people like us who see these things play out every day, practical ways, we are very careful when we're speaking. GBK, the truth is DNA testing is also prone to errors. One of the chief one is even human error. From sample collection, if the man collecting it is tired, sleepy, he may mislabel the samples and it becomes a huge error. Okay. And then even sometimes in the test itself, that's why you see sometimes they tell you they want to rerun the test because you're looking at the pieces. I don't want to use all the big technical words and jargons, but sometimes you have to rerun it and rerun it again until you get up to 99.95%, 99% accuracy. So it is fraught with errors, but in a large number of cases where you have proper regulation and standardization, it is correct. But I want to respond quickly to both my fellow panelists. I want to comment on the gender gap that Mrs. Osage mentioned and saying that women sometimes use pregnancy to trap men. I want to say this without equivocation here, that women also, because we're all thinking of DNA in the context of, oh, a woman is being checked to see if she's the parent, or a man is being checked to see if he's the parent, or something like that from one angle. Look at it on the flip side, and I've seen this. Women have been drugged, women have been gang raped, women have been impregnated by people who they don't know, family members sometimes, and they've had to do DNA in some of these cases. Let's be very, very careful the way we look at issues. And even for issues that come into the public domain, I will maintain again from my experiences that none of us were there. None of us knows what goes on in those houses. You only hear it when the story has broken. And a lot, Maggi, salt, pepper, curry is added to all of these stories. Let us think about those women who, in the name of gender gap and in the natural problems of the girl child in different social cultural milieu, those house girls who Oga would rape, if they were educated girl child in the first place or girl children, they won't be doing house helps at that time, or they will be empowered enough to complain and say I'm being sexually harassed. I have seen cases where rich father-in-laws have impregnated their sons' daughters against the will of those women. And he will tell the woman, if you don't agree to sleep with me, I will disown your husband. These cases come to us in the hospitals eventually. But when that breaks on social media, you're going to hear, oh, DNA has been done. The man is not the father of the child. In most cases, do we ever find out who the father of the child is? do we find out? So if man A goes for a DNA test, he's not the father of the child. Do we then find out who the father of the child is? Those of us looking from the outside. You know, again, I will say, individualize each case, take it on its merits, and be holistic in your judgment. Don't look at it from one side. Please, let's be very careful. If you are asking for a DNA, something is wrong. You've got trust issues. And if you know that you've got trust issues and you actually do that DNA and you're not going to do anything about it, I'll give you an analogy. If you're not going to do anything about it, if you're not going to drive those children away, if you're not going to drive your wife away at the end of the day, you still love her. Nobody is perfect. There is no use for you stirring the honest nest. There is no need for you going after DNAs when it's not medically requested, it's not legally requested, and it's not requested because of country migration. There's no need.
I'm going to come now. Let me go to Mrs. Saigi. For the peace of the nation, let me use my own word now. You're not going to fire your wife. Let me use the word fire now. Or divorce, separate. Do you think there should be no need for the DNA?
Irrespective, I mean, like Pastor George rightly said, how they were able to encourage the man who they met at the lounge to, still father the kids, irrespective of whether or not you want to, withdraw the responsibility of taking care of those kids. I still stand the ground, and I'm carefully saying that every man, if there is a breach of trust whatsoever, I like to think of it as the same way a woman might be like, I want to see your phone, babe. It's almost similar. Maybe just because he's been acting a little bit shady around the house, he's been coming home sometime maybe past the usual time. I feel like if we can demand for that as women, I don't see why, if there is something that looks like it isn't right, why it should be a problem for a man to request that. Every man deserves the right to know if that is his actual seed. So
On this note, once again, if you're just joining us, we are really digging deep into this, what I call DNA saga that is rocking the social, the cyber space right now. And we thought we should bring subject expert matters, people that have experience in the community, in the field, even leading women to talk about it. So you haven't really mixed a lot. We're just in the middle of it now. But share, share, share. If you are watching on Facebook, share, follow, like our page. We do have an app that we recently just launched on Apple that is that you can download. We are waiting by the end of this week. We should be able to launch the Android, but for the Apple users, you are lucky. So you will be taking a $50 gift card home should you be the winner. So download the app, take a screenshot, email it to gbkadmin@gbkm.fm. The email address is admin@gbkm.fm. We're going to quickly go on a commercial break and pay the bills. When we come back, we will continue from where we stop. Thank you very much, and do not go nowhere.
Now we can officially say that the app is out, but only for now in the App Store, so only for our Apple users. I'm sorry, Android, we're just gonna have to wait just a little bit longer, but don't worry, that's coming for you too. But you can get the GBKM app right on the App Store, where you can do everything you can do on the website. Check out the past shows, check out upcoming shows, you get notifications from when we go live, so you can just take us on the go with you everywhere you go, and you won't have to worry about.
Welcome back to GBKM. Again, if you're just joining us on the commercial break, my name is Kenny Bazwai, and you are on Kenny Bazwai Outreach, where we dig deep to the tap roots and then bring it out to the front line and bring a hot topic to the table. Today, we're talking about should children's DNA be requested in marriages. I have right there from United Kingdom, Dr. Loretta Oboro. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you very much. I have Madam Mrs. Osagie from here in Toronto. Thank you for joining us.
thank you.
We also have one of our community leader and on-air personnel, the Vice President of Nigeria Canadian Association, and he is also a pastor here from Toronto, our brother, Mr. George Chuku. Thank you for joining us. Now that we're here, we were talking about the DNA issue, and everybody has weighed in. So let me quickly wind back now to everybody. Maybe we want to look, as we took a deep breath, we just spilled the beans, we came back. I want to look at it holistically now. Do you think, I'm going to start from Mr. George, do you think the absence of DNA in the family or the presence of DNA in the family, which one do you think would do more harm?
Like I said before, that question is also relative. It's relative to the point why the DNA is being requested. Also, that's one. Number two is relative also to the husband and the wife's understanding with one another, and like I called it, what you call the modern marriage these days, where there is a common level of understanding, well, um, I do my own thing a little bit, you do your own thing a little bit. So if that is understood to that point, and then you begin to ask is it possible for us to have I would really like to have a DNA test here. But honey, I have never, I never slept with anybody while I was, I was, on that, wanted to be pregnant or at the point where I'm supposed to be pregnant, but let's just make sure of it. So, in a situation like that, all these things are relative. And I can see Dr. Loretta's, admonition and warning, because it could bring about, the destruction of a good relationship, whereby there was inadequate trust between the two, but also all of a sudden, because of the demand, let's just say you hanging with your friends, or maybe I go to, in that particular case, I was at this lounge, and this stuff happened, and then all of a sudden, men gather together and begin to discuss, and somebody else say, well, I discovered the same thing with my wife. One of my kids are not mine, and then all of a sudden, a bell rings in the mind of the man, and then you go home and say, honey, look at what I experienced today, and you tell all the stories, and finally you say, I believe that we need to have a DNA test for our children. And the woman could be that somebody who is so dedicated and given to you completely, that will actually destroy the foundation of that trust and marriage. So, to me, it's relative, whereby why are we asking for DNA? If it's not broken, why try to fix it? To me, if the relationship, you trust your wife and you love your wife and you have no reason to believe that anything happened, I would not advise you to ever, even begin to think about it or go there. But if there are question marks anywhere, yes, indeed, if you want to make sure, you can. That's what I believe.
Wow.
And by the way, can I add something else? I don't know, Dr. Loretta, maybe you can let me know about this one. For me, I have an internal control that lets me know when I have fathered a child. As a matter
How so?
of fact, yes.
How so? Like you have an internal GPS?
Internal GPS that lets me know. No, I don't know why. I don't know how this has happened. But every time I have fathered a child, I am the first one to have the morning sickness. I don't know. It's happened every
Is
time.
there a medical explanation to that?
I want to have the morning sickness. And when I have that morning sickness, that's when I begin to ask and say, is everything okay in there? And it's happened every single time. So for me, I'm content. I don't need to ask, because if I am to father one, I will know when that thing gets in there. And in a month or two before then, I will really get sick and I will start throwing up and all that kind of stuff. It's happened to me all the time. So maybe I'm a real one.
That sounds very outlandish. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna because of this question, and I will take Dr. Loretta first. So you're gonna address both, if you will. First of all, is there a medical explanation to Mr. George GPS? I will call it. And second of all, the question I asked him, I'm putting the same question to you now: the absence and the presence of DNA in the marriage, which one is more catastrophic?
Oga George,
Yes,
well done. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Being a medical researcher at the same time as being an obstetrician and gynecologist, I am going to say to you that we need to put this your theory to test. We will need, unfortunately, I don't think we can randomize for these experiments, but it would have been nice to subject it to further research. I don't know how we do that. Maybe marry you up to 4 women and we make all of them pregnant and we see how you have morning sickness with all of them or something. I really don't know. But honestly, what you said is astonishing to me as a researcher. It's astonishing to me as a medic. However, with my knowledge of psychology, it's not impossible. You can be that close to somebody that you can actually feel their innermost pains, even across time and space. So, on that level, it could be possible, or maybe very spiritually connected. But in terms of science and medicine, I can't explain that. Okay?
I,
Now,
I have wondered about that, and I've discussed it, extensively.
some men
And
they want to contact you after this program to buy this
I,
GPS.
I see. To be honest, I see a new business. I see a new career there. We can try and see what we can do.
And then to answer GBKM, I want to reiterate something I said before. Okay, fast go, rewind 20, 30 years ago. The DNA technology was not that rampant. Okay, rewind again some 40 years ago, it probably just wasn't there. Okay. Now, as with all new technology that is catching on, people are excited to try it and put it to use. I will still maintain what I am saying that if we all go back and do DNA for our siblings and ourselves, we will be surprised what we will find. And I'm saying this in my experience as a doctor that
No,
deals with
but
women,
can I follow up? Can I
pregnant
butt in?
women.
Can I butt in for a minute?
Yes, you can.
On which grounds, what on which basis do you believe that? Because I just got an email here saying that 85% of all the firstborn, if we were to take Nigeria as a case scenario, are not biologically owned by their father. And
Not just
from what you
firstborn.
say now, it kind of corroborate what the
Yes.
email says. So what? On which basis do you come to
let me
this?
let me give you a live example. I will give you a live example. And please let's stop saying Nigeria because it's worldwide. But two things are happening now. There's what we call confounding in research. And the confounding factor here now is that we have social media, we have news flying at the speed of light. So what happens in GBKM's house in Toronto, Canada, I can have access to it within minutes in my house in Nigeria. Okay, so that is some of the things that is making it look like, oh, this is so bad now. We all need to base our marriage and relationships on DNA. There is no perfect person. We are all imperfect. People make mistakes. Okay. And then GPK, to give you a reason why firstborns are that way, let me give you a very practical reason from my obstetric experience. Most times when women are dating men, okay, a lot of the time, many men are not serious in the beginning, unfortunately, especially if they are your age mates, the same age group, and you can't blame them. They are probably not just really ready for a marriage at that time, and that woman is in that relationship now. Just another man comes along who looks a lot more ready, and he just says, I want to marry you. And she thinks about it and says, well, I don't seem to have a future with this one. This one wants to marry me. But she had sex with that one maybe 2 weeks ago. She's broken it up these 2 weeks now. She's already pregnant for that one. She doesn't know. Some mistakes genuinely happen. Let's be very careful. I have seen them. Okay. And at the end of the day, she even thinks that that child is for the man she married. Some men turn up unexpectedly, especially in this time of Yankee marriage. You see, people will send pictures. Oh, this is my brother in America, or he likes you. And the girl doesn't know if the man is serious. Then all of a sudden, he turns up a week without notice. And she thinks, okay, he's serious, he wants to marry me. She'll go with the person who wants to marry her. Let's be very practical.
So
And perhaps she's already pregnant and doesn't know. So that is why firstborns, like you are saying, it is more likely that they have got these irregularities. Because by the time she's now in the man's house, she may remain faithful for life. So are you going to come and kill her for an unknown mistake?
Mr.
A lot
George,
of them are discovered at embassies.
I know you want to butt in, but as a lady, because we're talking, most of our emphasis are women's related now, and I want to play on a very plain level feed. So I want to allow Mrs. Osage to weigh in now. Do you agree to her analysis that based on those inconsistencies that may happen when you are dating, the chances of the first child not being being fathered by illegitimate father, if I would say, do you think there are other factors that you need to play? If you do agree to it.
So just borrowing Dr. Loretta's words, I would like us to be very careful still, because it's in some way, I would not want to encourage deceit in any way or deception. So if there is a possibility as a woman that you have had maybe sexual intercourse, it was unprotected with somebody else, and someone else comes along in the space of 1 month, and you feel like there is a possibility, I feel like you should, even as a genuine person, question the fact or question the pregnancy. I don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm so sorry. My alarm is going off.
If I'm just to respond quickly to what Winifred said, we seem to be looking at this thing from a one-sided angle. Oh, a woman has been unfaithful. My question to all of us listening is, when a man has been unfaithful all around the place,
Okay, great.
what do we test? What tests do we do? What do we test?
Yeah, so okay, I would like to butt in here. The fact that the man is unfaithful or the man has been unfaithful, it should not be a yardstick or an excuse for.
No, I'm not saying it is.
Okay, yes, because some people might be getting that idea. Okay, so my husband, you've been cheating. Do I ask you where you go? Why are you asking me for a DNA test? You know, I believe that also the issue of the DNA test is just an evidence of, problems in the marriage, other issues that are occurring in the marriage. So we have the issue of distrust, we have the issue of maybe lack of respect or whatever, or maybe even lack of communication. So when we're looking at DNA as just DNA, then maybe we might begin to mince words and maybe confuse other people. But if we even go deeper into the relationship, into the marriage, we would see that the issue of a DNA test most of the time stems from, the issue of distrust, the issue of maybe lack of communication, the issue of other things that are wrong in the relationship. And if maybe having a DNA test is one way to put the right foot forward in the right direction to reconcile any of the issues in the marriage, then I'm absolutely up for it. As Pastor George said, it could be relative based on the understanding that, both parties have, the husband and the wife. Of course, it would be highly unfair. Like you have also said, for me, I have been a loving wife and my husband just barges in one day. I even probably married him a virgin.
Wait, hold on, let me quickly see. I think we have some callers.
That would be absolutely unfair, and that might ruin the whole relationship. So I agree with you on that. But then again, we also have to know that, the issue of DNA is just an evidence of some other deeply rooted issues in the marriage. For example, mistrust.
That is one thing we share in common.
Yeah.
There must be a problem and there must be distrust.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to do anything about that DNA, if it's going to become catastrophic for your later life.
Well, let me call in. I think we do have a caller. We have a couple of callers, and we managed to take one now because the line is jamming. Hi, caller. How are you doing? Hi, caller. How are you doing? Okay. I think we lost him. So go ahead, Dr. Loretta.
I was just saying that there is something three of us agree on, and that is that DNAs begin to rear their head in a foundation where there is an element of distrust, where there are issues, where there are fragments you can't just sweep under the carpet. But where I differ from my other co-panelists is this. If you know that you're not going to do anything about a DNA test, please think about it carefully till the end. Think about it logically and think about it holistically. If you know you're not going to do anything about it at the end of the day, kindly, except it's for travel reasons, medical reasons, kindly refrain from it. We must also understand that these days there are IVFs that are done with donor sperms in an agreement with both couples. Now, if something were to happen, i.e., that man died suddenly, and the man's family comes and does DNA for those children, how is that woman going to be able to tell the family that myself and my husband agreed to use donor sperm? I see these things practically.
On that
Let's
note,
be careful.
we
Very
do
careful.
have another caller. We have the line is jamming up. I'm not sure what's going on. A lot of people are trying to go through. Hi caller, how are you doing today?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing today? What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Charles. I'm calling from Vancouver.
Hi Charles. We are talking about the DNA, and I have.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I'm following up the program. Thank you for the show. It's very interesting. And but my question is for Dr. Loretta. Uh, Obviously, she does not have an issue with DNA. With Dr. Loretta is taking a stand that DNA is not important in marriage. My question is to Dr. Loretta, if your husband come home tomorrow with 3 or 4 children that does not belong to you, will she accept to take care of those children?
If my husband comes home tomorrow and says that he has 3 or 4 children that does
Outside
not
the
belong
marriage?
to me, but he tells me that they belong to him, I will
Yes.
take those children because I trust
You
him.
take-
You see, this is the problem. And if I go and do that DNA,
Wait, hold on.
and
So if
let's
your
be
husband,
careful.
sorry,
Yeah, let's be careful. I can afford to say, my husband, let's go and do this DNA for these 4 children. If we go and do that DNA and they are not my husband's children, why did my husband bring those children in the first place? He had a liaison with that woman, didn't he? He's already
No,
committed that offense.
I'm saying that as much as you trust your husband, let's assume tomorrow he comes back home with 4 children and tell you, look, this was a girl I was dating on the side. These 4 children, I did the DNA, they are my children. Will you accept those children?
Even without the DNA, that's what I'm trying to point out, sir. If he comes and says, these 4 children are my illicit children, I've kept them hidden from you for 10 years, I will accept those children because he has told me he has committed an offense of sleeping and having an illicit affair. And I'm not going to kill him, and I'm not going to relinquish my husband for some side chick.
We need,
Okay?
say that again. Say that
women
again.
like you, man.
Say that again.
We
So
need
for
more
me,
women like
Mr.
you,
Kenny,
man.
you're excited about that statement.
Say that again.
honestly,
We love
I'm
you,
being
Dr.
a
Loretta. We
virgin
need more women
myself.
like you.
I
Where
will
are
not
they?
be
Where are they?
surprised if those children are not my husband's own. But what I'm trying to point out is my husband has
Thank you so
brought them
much, Kenny.
to
I'm
me
enjoying it.
that they are his children.
So, but let me quickly say this to the caller, Mr. Charles. Thank you for calling in. But what's the point you were trying to make?
I mean, my point is, since she is, I wanted to see if this table turn around, if she will also accept it. So obviously, she have an open hand to welcome any child in the family, and I think that majority of men love that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. No, don't miss it, Charles. Charles, you are missing it. What you are missing is that there is a foundation of trust. Okay? There's a foundation of trust that has been established between certain partners. That if a man cheats sometimes, he's going to come and meet his wife and say, I cheated with XYZ. And sometimes if a woman cheats, she's going to go and meet her, as bizarre as it may seem, and tell her husband, I cheated with XYZ. So you must understand the dynamics of a relationship. One size can never fit all.
Before I want Mr. George to weigh in, but I like to recap what you said. I ain't leaving my man for no side cheek.
No, I ain't. Because I
knew you would like that.
Built a life. Let me tell you, I built a life with that man. If I did it, the side chick will not find him attractive. Okay. And people are human, they make errors. I'm not trying to condone
Mr. George, what's your take
infidelity
on
here.
this?
Don't get me wrong. I am being very practical. I see these things on a daily basis.
Mr. George, go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Loretta,
What if the woman is bringing those children to scatter your home for you?
okay, Dr. Loretta, are you a rare woman?
Maybe we
I
need
can take,
we
I
will
can
need you,
take
Mr.
No,
George, to
that.
speak up a little bit.
no.
Mr. George, based on
Yes,
this compliment, we need to hear you properly. Speak up.
okay. I said, Dr. Loretta, you are a rare woman,
I
a
know,
rare
bring it
woman,
on, bring it on, bring
and
it on.
and I just wanted to, okay, for instance, you and your husband built a trust whereby you trust one another, but bringing the children is a breach of that trust, isn't it?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Bringing the children may be a reinforcement of that trust because he could choose not to bring the children. I have seen men who it is discovered at their demise that they have other children. The woman is stunned at the funeral or at the death of the man. Which is better? To be told the truth or to find out on the demise of someone you always loved and then have a very tinted and bad memory of that person for the rest of your life? Why don't you just sort it out when the person is alive? And like
So
I
Okay,
said, let's
from
in
a
let's
line
be
man's
with
very careful.
standpoint,
in
from
line
a
with
man's
the mhm.
standpoint, I want Madam Osage to please, can you answer us if such a situation is in your case, what would you do?
Exactly. I'm
Because I
going
know you're
back.
first lady,
I'm
so
going back to our topic just so we don't sway too much. This would be a perfect example for me to request a DNA test immediately. It would be the perfect instance for me to request or demand a DNA test to actually ascertain the paternity of those kids for the reasons that I mentioned before. And also because it might be a scheme to, ruin my relationship and whatnot. And also, Dr. Loretta, you said something so profound. I appreciate it. However, I don't know. I just want to say this. You said, oh, you built a life with that man. That's why the side chick found him attractive. Does the man realize that all that he has and his riches or his wealth today is relative to your presence in his life? Because you may think it, the man may not think it. The man may be like, oh, well, even though I was married to a different woman, I would still be the man that I am today. Oh, well, even if I would maybe even be more. So I appreciate that your line of thought there. But then again, some men and the way, I don't want to say
If I
African
can
men, but
quickly
I, I,
respond to
I,
you,
I have to. Mhm,
if I can quickly respond to you,
mhm.
sister,
Go.
if you said something, people marry for the wrong reasons. If you
Yes.
married for the right reasons, then the man will know that you constitute a major part in his success story. When Barack Obama, there was something that was going around. I don't know if it was true or not. And Barack
Mhm.
said, "Oh, Michelle, that your ex-boyfriend that was driving that car. Go and see him now. He's not the
Yes.
president." And Michelle said, "If I had married that man, he
He
would
would
be
have been.
president of
Yes.
exactly." So
I have the same confidence as Michelle. I could say the exact same
exactly,
thing. And I agree with what you said. I said it so profound.
exactly.
But then again, in the minds of the men, because I have also interacted with a lot of men and women alike. And it's not always they don't share the same feeling on this subject matter. That's why I had to butt in.
We
But
can't
for the
we
question,
can't we can't all
yeah,
share the same feeling because we are all
exactly.
a product of our life experiences. Maybe if I
Yes.
wasn't a doctor, maybe if I wasn't in the business of women and baby making, in the business of men and women and sex feeds me. Sex
Mhm.
puts food on my table.
As an
So maybe if I
obstetrician.
wasn't in that business, I may have an entirely different view. But I am in that business, and I know that the mathematics of sex, 1 plus 1 is not 2.
what is it?
So
I don't know. That's the question. What is it?
So, Mr. George, if we want to go back to the topic of the DNA, for sure, that would be the perfect instance for me to demand a DNA test. And if it so happens that they're truly the children of my husband, I would be, I don't know, I would be shattered. And, that would definitely break whatever trust that we have been building for years because stepping out of the marriage in itself is a huge breach of that trust. So
And what if they are not his children? What would you do? I'm just curious.
What Mr. George was
okay,
trying
if
to
they're not his
point
children,
what
they are not his.
what
He
Mr.
would
George
now
was
know
trying
that
to
they are
point
not
out, I
his.
believe
What
what
if
Mr.
he wants to keep them despite the
I
fact
believe
he's
what
not
Mr.
Yeah,
George
actually, right now, like I introduced myself, I'm the first lady of a Godsend Foundation. What we
but
do
I,
is we take care of children. Like I said, if you want to adopt a child, there should be no issue in that. If you want to house children, there should be no issue in that. In 2017, my husband was on the streets of Benin City at 9:10. At the time, I was even having issues, but I watched him on live video. He was with street kids, and we got a house. The videos are there. We got a house. We got accommodation. Like we got foodstuff. We got household utensils and everything, and we housed these kids. If this is what it has come to, which I'm already used to, if for example tomorrow I won't be surprised because of the kind of heart that my husband has. He comes home, we already have a son, Osamu Jame. I consider him to be my son, even though he's not my biological son. He was on the street, and luckily on that night in 2017, my husband found him, and by God's grace, we've been able to train him to school. He's now attending one of the most prestigious schools in Edo State, Word of Faith School. So if, for example, tomorrow, or Osamu Jame, who is now my son, I consider him to be my son nonetheless,
yeah,
whether biologically
but
or not.
let me
So
quickly
it can't
butt
be
in here,
deceived to
madam.
think that a seed is his when
Can you
it's
guys
not.
hear me?
If we want to adopt,
Yes,
there
we can.
shouldn't be an issue with that.
Okay, let
Yeah.
me butt in here. I think Mr.
I
George is
want to
trying to
ask a
say that
question, Kenny.
that
Kenny, 1 second.
go ahead.
Madam, I wanted to know, your husband brought those kids to your house thinking that this woman she's been sleeping with bought the children for him. And now he brings those kids to your house, and then you demand a DNA test, knowing that he thought that these children were his. That means that trust has been breached already by him sleeping with that woman and thinking that the children belongs to him. Now you come to find out that they are not his. Then what happens to the trust that you have, and what would you do with the children?
Good
To
question.
me or Dr. Loretta? Is that to me?
You.
Okay,
Madam.
yes. So absolutely at that point, he decides what to do with the children. If we want to keep them as, oh, they're motherless, they no longer have a mother, now they're responsibility, fine and good. But if he was left to the opinion that these are his seed, these are his biological children, it is left for him to take action. If he also wants to keep them, of course they are of no pain to me. I don't mind that. Like I said, I'm already called to a life where I see other children as mine. So that would not be a problem for me at that time. But if they're his, I would be, shattered, and we'll have to build on the trust again. And even after I find out that maybe they're not his kids, we have to work on the trust and rebuild it.
Let me
If we
just
can,
quickly weigh in
if we
this
want to
now.
save our marriage.
Let me quickly come in this way now. But well, there are situations whereby you have an agreement, you have agreed to adopt children, bring people in, support children. It's different, totally different from when a man shows up and then all of a sudden they tell you that they have a baby somewhere. And I believe what Mr. George was trying to emphasize on is, will that not break the horse's back when your husband just shows up and bring 3 4 children, all of a sudden this is my children and you have to mother them, you have to, will you be able to trust him? Is it as easy as Dr. Loretta has presented it, that, oh, there's no woman is going to take my man from her? Is it that easy? Anyone
The
can
trust
jump on
is going to be
this.
broken, but I still believe that it can be worked on, right? The trust is definitely not going to be as intact as it was prior to that incident. But if two people are as committed as she said, Dr. Loretta, as she said, oh, you know why you both got married, for destiny, for purpose, and to build a godly family or whatnot. If that is still the reason, no matter what has happened, I still believe that the trust can still be built on. Even whether you discover that the kids are for your husband or not.
But how come if a man requests for a DNA, the trust is broken and the center will not hold when things fall
Yeah, that should
apart?
be to Dr.
But if
Loretta,
if
because
a man bring a child, the center will now hold. I think we are going one-sided here.
No, don't get it wrong. I gave a practical example of a couple I know where the man requested a DNA and the center never held again. Okay. Another couple could do something different in that sort of scenario. Let's be careful. Every couple is unique. They would handle things in their own way, please. Let's not get me out of context here. If I will still stand by my opinion. DNA is a new evolving tool. It's getting better every day. It should not be the foundation on which relationships, marriages are being tested or built. It is only brought out from the cupboard when people have trust issues. And I will maintain that if at the end you do that DNA and you find out and you're not going to do anything about it, you think, oh, I will just drive my wife for 6 months, show her pepper, and I'll get her back. If you know you're not going to do anything about it conclusively in your lifetime, please, there's no need. No need, except it's for legal reasons, medical reasons, or you are traveling or something like that. Please
Mr. George, go
don't
I
ahead.
would
trouble
also
when
like to
trouble is not
say,
good.
though, in scenarios or situations like this, especially in extreme cases of maybe emotional abuse, I would like to say in this case, or abuse of trust, I would like to say that sometimes it's not easy to determine your line of action if, for example, whatever you think it is the opposite of what is discovered. So you may not necessarily know what you intend to do with the result. But if, for example, there is mistrust already in the marriage, you may not necessarily know, oh, this is going to be my line of action. Okay, that might all fall into place after that test. So you may not necessarily readily know that this is the action I'm going to take. Because at the end of the day, even as women, or like maybe with your husbands or even with your wife as a man, there are situations where you thought I would never forgive you. I'm done with it. At the end of the day, you found a common ground and you started to build your trust. You decided to work on your marriage and all of that. So I would say that sometimes, especially in extreme situations like this, you may not, especially when there's a reason now, there may be character traits or just whatever that stirs up the need for a DNA test. You may not necessarily know your line of action, whether you're going to retain the marriage, retain your wife, or send her packing. So if you want to say be sure of your end line of action, I don't know if that's actually feasible.
Mr.
Well,
George, Mr. George was going to say
interpreter,
something. I don't want to sound like we're overpowering him. Mr. George, go ahead. I'm on your corner. I got your back.
Mr. George, please
Go ahead,
let
go
us
ahead,
interpret
Dr. Loretta.
let us interpret things in context. Let's be
Okay.
very, very careful. I'm saying this for a reason.
Well, Dr. Loretta always says things for a reason, but I think your husband will be happy listening to this whole thing.
See, my husband knows it's not about his happiness right now. This is a program, and
I know,
and he
I know.
knows my ethics and he knows my belief. If there is anything my husband knows, it is that I am an independent thinker. Okay, I am empowered to make my own decisions, and I have my own life experiences that have forged the way I look at life.
Okay. So my question now is, and I'm bringing this question from the man's point of view to the women's point of thinking. Based on what we have seen, I know we do not want to use Nigeria as ground of test or whatever the case might be, or use our ladies in that particular fashion. But what would be your advice? You coming from the medical aspect of things, and you coming from the spiritual aspect of things, the way things are going in Nigeria right now, what would be your advice? Because what we know and what we have experienced and what we have seen is there has been moral decay on both sides, on both the men are fueling these things by bringing out money, and then the women are just because of the economic problems we're having in Nigeria, like Madam Osage was saying, women are just now easily, for the sake of taking care of themselves or whatever they might, or too much want, they just easily will just go and sleep with any Tom they can marry. So what would be, from a female standpoint, from a spiritual and a medical, what would be your advice to men seeking for wives in Nigeria, knowing that if these young ladies have experienced this kind of thing from the age of teenagers all the way until they get married, they might not consider it such an ill situation to go and dip outside, maybe, okay, the husband makes them upset, or maybe he's not bringing out money as much to go out there and continue with that kind of lifestyle. What would be your advice from both sides, please?
Winifred, go first.
Well, anybody
great.
can take
So
this.
I'm actually going to come in spiritually and medically. So maybe I might take a bit of your part. So medically, first of all, I would like to, because I already spoke about this topic on my page previously, and I did say that even as you mentioned initially, it was just like maybe you listened to that message or something, because you were really sounding like, So there are a lot of men who know that they have reproductive issues medically. It has been ascertained medically. They know that
Maybe you want to speak up a little bit.
low sperm count.
Say, speak up a little bit.
Okay, they know that they have low sperm counts, they know that they have reproductive issues, and just because of the desperation of this generation and the level of immorality, again, the socio-economic gap, especially in Africa, it's happening all over the world, but of course it's at a more higher ratio in Africa. Every man should be careful as to the pregnancy that they accept. Okay, so that's the first point I want to make. So when you're married in a home, you have a wife, and maybe like Dr. Loretta rightly said in the beginning, you've been trying for 12 years, 10 years, 5 years, and your wife is medically okay. You are at fault, and some will come and say hallelujah, praise God, some girl outside just got pregnant from me, she has chopped my seed, something you weren't woman enough to do. And so he sends the wife at home packing. You understand me? And at the end of the day, that child doesn't actually belong to him. So men, we really, or you really have to be careful as to, the pregnancy that you accept, especially when you know that there is a medical basis, that has ascertained your inability to actually impregnate a woman. And from the spiritual aspect, I know that there are various beliefs in the world, but I like to state here that my standard is God's word. I am a believer. I am a born again Christian. And so I would like us to come back to God. I also like to say that any sex outside of marriage is a sin, whether fornication or adultery. I also like to say that a fornicator is an adulterer in training, right? So any sex outside of marriage is a sin. So when you are married, when you have a wife at home and you step out of the marriage, maybe you go commit adultery and then you get a child outside of wedlock. I mean, I feel like definitely that is a sin in itself, right? So I would like to say that we should come back to Christ. Let Christ be the foundation and the basis of our marriage. Not to say that when we are in Christ, we're going to
Yeah,
be,
but can
we're
I
not going
quickly
to be
say
subject to
something?
some mistakes
What will
or,
you say? What will you say to our viewers that are Muslims, since you are leading
Yeah,
everybody
so
to
that's why I
Christ?
started by saying my standard is the word of God. I
Okay.
have, yeah, no advice for any other religion, whatever. I'm a born again Christian, so that is the standpoint from which I can advise. So, as I was saying, I would like to advise that every man, every woman comes back to Christ. Come back to Christ. Come back to morality. These are the end times. We're already seeing so many signs of it. Men who become lovers of themselves, men who become lovers of money. They would no longer consider, the feelings of their partner, even the feelings of the children. And also, I put it also spiritually in my last message that when you give a child who is not biologically fathered by a man to him, you're depriving that child of his spiritual rights and his spiritual blessings from the tongue of his actual biological father, the man who actually formed him or birthed him from his loins. So it goes just beyond the physical, or because I know some women say, oh, I'm doing it because of finance, I'm doing it to give the child a better life. But then again, it is irrespective of the financial status of the man, or even whether the man accepts the pregnancy or not. It is about doing what is right. Again, from the spiritual point of view, my standard is God's word. So there should be no excuse for deceit. There should be no excuse for lies, whether your partner has done worse to you in the past or not. I also advise women in my message that if the level of hurt that your husband has meted out to you is beyond forgiving, is beyond pardon, and you feel like you must step out on the marriage, then it's best you end it, because clearly on the ground of adultery, in some ways, there is room for divorce. Okay, even though God does not like divorce, I also say that at the end of the day, the reason why God does not like divorce is what is behind divorce, which is the sin that brings about divorce. So if as a woman you think, oh, my husband has been shady, my husband has been lying, so I'm going to go commit adultery and pin the baby on him, if that has ever come on you at all, you feel like your husband has hurt you to a point of no return, no pardon, then it's best you end it, instead of jeopardizing your life, jeopardizing your destiny, and jeopardizing your faith, your salvation, your birthright, like I preached yesterday, by deceiving your husband, and you're just messing up your whole
That
marriage.
is hot. I see Dr. Loretta and everybody nodding their head. I just let you go because you're letting out for real, and that's for real. But we're going to take the last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be asking a question of a yes or no. Do
Good.
you think lack of trust is sufficient for a marriage to fall apart? When we come back, we will be dealing with that. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you on the other side. Don't go nowhere.
Now, we can officially say that the app is out, but only for now in the App Store, so only for our Apple users. I'm sorry, Android, we're just gonna have to wait just a little bit longer, but don't worry, that's coming for you too. But you can get the GBKM app right on the App Store, where you can do everything you can do on the website. Check out the past shows, check out upcoming shows, you get notifications from when we go live, so you can just take us on the go with you everywhere you go, and you won't have to worry about missing a future show. Now, we
Your question.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. If you're just joining us in part, we are currently dealing and we're just about running up the very topic of today. Should DNA, children's DNA be requested or allowed in marriages? And my question that I asked before we went on commercial break is, will that trust enough? The trust of the man, the fact that the man did not trust you, is this sufficient for a marriage to break up? Ladies and gentlemen, join me and welcome all our special panel. I have up there in the UK, Dr. Loretta. Up here in Canada, we have Mrs. Osage, and we have the Vice President of Nigeria Canadian Association and a pastor, will I say pastor now, Mr. George on the other side. Yes, thank you very much. You guys have really went everywhere. We went east, west, north, and south to really collaborate everything together and get to where we are now. And I believe all the points are very valid and very crucial. And I want to say a special thank you to all our people commenting on all our social media platform. Yes, we have a lot of yes. Remember, we asked. We said if you said the DNA should be requested in marriage, yes. If you say no, we have a lot of yes. We have a lot of no as well. We may not be able to harness all the comments right now, but we definitely, our back-end guys will follow up later with all the comments, and the chat can go on from there. But also, we have gotten about 5 emails that are just coming, people that have downloaded the app. Please download the app. We apologize for those guys that are using Android right now, but currently we have the app on Apple. Download it. GBKM is the name of the app. And then take a screenshot and email it to admin@gbkm.fm. Admin, ADMIN @gbkm.fm. And you will be entered into a draw that is drawing on Sunday, where you will win a $50 gift card. So, Dr. Loretta, I want to start by you. I asked that question, and I would like to take it as a yes or no.
Well, unfortunately,
I think she
you
froze.
cannot get a yes or no answer in life. Unfortunately, the reason is because I will maintain again, let us be careful and let us examine each case on their merit. For some people, just asking them to do a DNA test, like the example I gave, is enough for them to feel very sad and bad for the rest of their life about the energy and time they've invested in a relationship, in that trust. Okay, so for others, they'll do it. They will do it and give you the result. In fact, I know someone who did it, gave the result, and then walked out. So people are different. Okay. However, Mr. George Chukwu asked a very vital question, and my sister here, Winifred, gave a very elaborate answer. But I would want to just to weigh in, like GBKM would say, and say that when you are looking for a wife, a man looking for a wife anywhere in the world, you are asking that what is the recipe? What should we do?
Okay, I think she froze.
Or what should he look for? I will go back. Yeah, can we hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
We can
Can
hear
hear
you.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I've said in a book I wrote. It's called My Father's Daughter. You must empower the girl child. The girl child anywhere in the world, especially in third world countries. I don't like to use that word, but I'm using it today. Low resource economic countries, you must empower the girl child, because when you empower the girl child, then she's going to see beyond materialism, and her eyes are really going to be open and descaled to pick a man who is educable and who is trainable despite the human imperfections. Can we hear me
Yes.
clearly
Yes,
here?
yes, we can. Yes.
Because if you empower the girl child, she will see. There's a chapter in my book, My Father's Daughter, where my dad told me You are looking at a car, that car has passed, you're still looking at it. You want to bend your neck and break it? He said, there is no need. When you are empowered, my daughter, you can get 10 of those cars. He told me such things every day. So when it was time for me to pick a life partner, I wasn't looking for a rich man because I know that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I am wealth itself, okay? And I will enhance any man who is fortunate to marry me. That's the truth without apology. So let's
Before
get
you
it straight.
proceed,
And
we
as
have.
far as Jimmy, I'm rounding up. I'm sorry, darling. As far as sin is concerned, I will say the Bible says, "Go ye and sin no more." So even for people who commit adultery, who do this, who do that, sometimes those are some of the best human beings in the world. Irrespective of my religion as a Christian, I will maintain that I am not fixated within the four walls of religion. I am not.
I'm going to say this before I allow the two, before I go back to the two people, we will take the last call because there's been a lot of people calling repeatedly. And I
Donna,
think
you
we're going to do our best to make sure we can accommodate as much as we could.
okay?
Hello, caller. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Where are you calling from and what's your name?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Darrow, and I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I want to believe that you'll be following the program today. What's your take on
Yeah,
this?
I happen to be on the program right from the onset. I don't quite agree with the what the doctor on the program said regarding picking up or getting a good wife from Africa, or rather the procedure to take to get a good wife from Africa. So is a point that I would like to but to stress just a little. You know, for men that are living in the diaspora and you're really looking for a woman back home in Africa, or so to say in Nigeria, you shouldn't just go on the street to pick up a woman. Is a Picking up a woman should be a thing that is done properly. You should at least look for a girl that is well brought up, not just a girl that slept
Okay,
with a woman.
can I try? Let me
I never
try.
said go on the street.
Let me try and understand your take now. Are you saying that taking a woman from Africa should be encouraged, discouraged? What's your view? What's your stand? I'm sure the
It
panelists
should
are
be
listening.
Yeah,
What's
it
going on
should
with
be
the phone?
encouraged, but you shouldn't just go on the street to pick a woman that had sex last week or last 2 weeks. So when you're picking a woman from Africa, or rather choosing a life partner from Africa, is a thing that should be done properly. I think there are still girls that are well brought up and even says before marriage at all.
Okay,
So
okay. Before I allow the
this,
panelists to come in, because I would like to say this, do you have any standard criteria in which you have to go to have to validate? Because you're saying, from what I heard from you, you can't just pick a woman that just have whatever last week and so on. Is there a standard way to validate that woman that did that, unless she told you, and if she's honest or not? There are different processes. Do you know? We're all willing to learn.
okay, yeah, I will speak concerning that just immediately. You know, as a man getting ready to settle down, or rather looking for a life partner, you know, going to Nigeria or going back home to look for one that suits you. It's not just from the street. You see a girl on the street, and then you call her a wife. You have to know a woman down to her house, down to the family. Even, you know, there are. I think I don't want to go into the issue of those days of our parents picking up, keeping the wives or girl or anybody like that. But I think those things work those days because there are reputations from families, or rather on family that work so much. You know, you know a particular family that got a good reputation, and not just picking up a girl from the streets of Lagos, or from the street of Edo
All
State.
right. Thank you very
So,
much, sir. I'm going to allow the panelists to weigh in. Thank you very much, sir. And Do not go. Just still there. I'll go with Mr. George
All right.
first because it's a guy we have on the phone and it's from UK. I do believe that you heard him correctly. That I believe he's trying to say that there's a standard procedure of getting a woman and so on and so forth. What did you gather from what he says?
Okay. Point of
All right.
correction.
Nice one. Thank you.
Dr. Loretto never said picking up a woman from the street. That's number one. Number two, even the caller was saying regarding making sure you know the person from home all the way down to the mom and the dad and all that kind of stuff. That is also, it could be a criteria, but it is not, all in all. Because number one, your daughter leaves your house. She's in school. You don't know what is going on with that little girl over there at the age of 18. She leaves school, you thinking she's in boarding school, but she's actually in Lagos. And then she gets used to this type of lifestyle. She goes to university. You sending her money, but to her, it's not even enough. She's dipping and, doing whatever she can do. You, as a father, you, as a mother, cannot go and swear on your life that your child is what she pretends to be when she comes. So you don't know. So now you go there, you thinking that, okay, from a wonderful family, the mom is a prayerful woman, the dad is a very cultured man, and then you go pick up this young girl, but you don't even know what she's been through. But what you are depending upon is the parents, but you don't know that the girl is already gone. So what I'm saying is, I do understand that like I said for me, anybody going back home, number one, you got to pray for you to marry the right person. Because if you don't, you can find that person you think is the most qualified or the best in the world, and you come home. And let me tell you something. The last thing that any man or any woman wants is a life partner that will give them hell. It's worse than going to hell. So to me, I believe that, yes, that might be a particular kind of criteria, but you might not even understand that the person you saw for the very first time, you call it picking up from the street, could be the perfect partner for you. You don't know that.
Now, let me
You never
quickly
know.
say this, Mr. George. Thank you. Just to put everything back in line, we all here are entitled to our opinion. This is an opinionated show. But however, Dr. Loretta never said some words that the caller have said. So I'm just trying to set that straight, just like Mr. George said. But thank you, caller. Thank you for the great job. Do anybody want to weigh in from what we gathered from the
I
caller?
just want to appreciate the last caller. I really love the fact he called in because he has brought something to bear, which I have been trying not to bring into the open. But since he's giving me the opportunity, I will say it. You see, we have societies that are so stereotypical. They judge books by the cover, and that has created a lot of problems. Today we are saying, my sister Winifred said women rush to marry, they want to hook a man with pregnancy. All of these things, they are being pushed by the stereotype that is society. Because by the time you are 25, they're asking you, you've not brought a man, you're not married, what are you waiting for? You come with a man who is your classmate, and they ask you in your family, are you mad? Are you blind? Did you not see that chief who has this and who has that? Let me tell a story and I will end this. Okay. And the last caller has brought back what I said: empower the girl child. When I was growing up, I told my dad, I was looking at the Naira notes. The man, Ahmed, was the governor of Central Bank. He used to sign the Naira notes. I told my dad, I said, Daddy, do you mean that one man signs all these Naira notes? He said, yes. I said, eh? So who is he? He said, he's the governor of Central Bank. I said, Daddy, do you know what? He said, what? I said, Daddy, I want to marry the governor of Central Bank. He said to me, he said, Loretta, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay for you to want to marry the governor of Central Bank. But I want you to go to your class, that primary 1 or 2 that you are in. Go in that class and look at all the boys in that class and look for the one that has the potential qualities of becoming a governor of the central bank. And that is the one you should marry. Now, I want us to take away from this. if you are looking for a life partner, you don't want to start stressing yourself for a DNA up and down later in life. Within the limits of human error, I will still say that because people make mistakes, people slide, people fall, people sin, people get up. In fact, sinners to me, when they rise up, they are the best converts. Okay, for me. So we should create women who have got confidence, women who know their onions and know their worth. Ironically, those are the kind of women that men run away from. But, but in practical, I have found out that those are the women who will actually give you their all as a man. Once they are convinced that you are educable and you are trainable. I'm using that word over and over again. So let's not blame the Nigerian woman. And I thank that last caller for bringing this stereotype to this panel. Why would you say that you don't just pick a woman from the street? And I like you, George, because you have asked that some women are picked from the streets and they turn out being very good wives. Do you have a wifo meter in your eyes? You don't want to marry the woman who had sex 2 weeks ago. Do you have a vaginoscope in your eyes? Can you tell what has been in there and what has not been in there? I rest my case.
Madam, um, Dr. Loretta, thank you very, very much for being
GBK,
eloquent.
can I make a comment,
Yes,
please?
go ahead.
Okay, I just love my panelists so much that I am inviting them back again by God's grace for us to have another discussion.
We will do this again.
And this discussion, I want to throw it out there. Maybe we can take a look at it and then you make a decision at GBK FM. If a woman is depriving the husband of sex and refuses to sleep with the husband, and he goes out there and then ends up having a child because would he be accepted or would he be rejected? That's just a question I want to throw out there. We can change it around. We can tweet it. You can ask Dr. Loretto to, add her own, and then, Madam First Lady to add her own. And maybe it's something that we need to really discuss because these are things that are actually happening today in today's world. And it is deeper than just that question alone. It's so huge that I would love these two ladies to also join us in a panel later, if it is possible, to have that discussion.
Thank you, Mr. George. It's certainly
matter for another day.
It's certainly what we are going to
look at it.
it's certainly what we are going to look into and see, consult with each other and see when we are available. Of course, come back and discuss it. The time is really, 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 really fast spent. I want to apologize to our people on the Facebook. We are unable to read through all the messages, a lot of messages, and those that we missed their calls, we apologize. We'll try and see next time. Maybe we'll add 2 lines where you have a WhatsApp call and a direct line that we will be able to accommodate everybody. First of all, this show is sponsored by My Father's Daughter, which is written by Dr. Loretta. Thank you very much, Dr. Loretta. You want to tell us a little bit about that book?
Well, it's a book that I put together to enable people, not just women, but people to actualize their own self. It's available on Amazon worldwide. Some have called it a life manual, others have called it a parenting guide. Just read it and see where it ministers to you. And I don't doubt that there's a word in that book for everybody. My Father's Daughter.
Thank you very much for taking upon yourself to sponsor this program today. I will now allow you guys to, I'll leave it up to you guys not for your final words. I'll start with Mrs. Osagi. I'll take it on your final word. How do we find you? How do we contact you? Your final closing remark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kenny, and to both panelists. Thank you so very much. And for Pastor George, I appreciate, the invitation. I would definitely love to. However, we can discuss that off of camera. So yes, of course, again, I am the president of Win Women International, and I'm also the president of Win Women Shelter. It is something that I and my husband set up to help women who have been abused, women who have survived and lived abusive relationships. And I'm also the first lady of a Godsend Foundation worldwide. It is a charitable organization where, of course, we lend a helping hand to those that are in need. And to reach out to me, I am on Facebook and Instagram, as well as YouTube, as Win Women International. Thank you all so much to all the viewers. It's been a pleasure having you all here today. And I hope that you have taken something, from everything that has been deliberated upon here today. And I hope it makes you form better decisions or opinions. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're very delighted that you took the time based on your busy schedule to be with us today, and I'm very positive that you have certainly been a blessing to all our viewers and listeners all over the world. I want to now switch to our pastor, the Vice President of Nigeria Canadian Association, Mr. George. Your last remarks.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank all the viewers. Without you, this whole entire recording and this whole entire broadcast would have been nothing. And also a special thanks to Dr. Loreto and First Lady Osagie. It is such a pleasure. I so enjoyed it that I asked Lord, I said, what do I do to bring these two ladies? Because it's so enlightening to prick your brains. And I really want to thank you. And I also want to thank GBK FM TV for hosting this show. And it's such a pleasure having you all. And hopefully, by God's grace, we will see again, have another interesting discussion through which we will be able to build each one of us up, and then possibly, move to the next higher level in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. You have always been a pace setter. You have always been a leader in the community. Thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and all your passion that you have spread across Canada and at large the whole world, putting all the Nigerians together. Of course, I will not forget the president of NCA. We love you, thank you. Let me also quickly re-emphasize that Dr. Loretta Ogboro, want to thank you for being able to sponsor this program. Thank you. I know you spoke before. Do you still have, how do we reach out to you personally? Should anybody want to follow up with you? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
I want to say a big thank you to the panelists and yourself, GBKM, for what you all do for humanity. I always say that our shared humanity is the true religion. And with respect to my final word on this DNA thing, I believe that DNA does not need to form the bedrock of relationships or marriages. But the thing is, if you're not going to do anything at the end of the day about that relationship, you're going to let it go on, then please avoid doing all of that and see how you can manage and fix your relationships, except it's for medical reasons, legal reasons, or for travel reasons. And as a final word, please let us empower our girl children as we also build up a population and a generation of boy children who will become worthy of the girl children we are empowering. Because there's no use raising empowered girl childs or empowered girl children, and you don't have the matching minds of properly raised boy children that will be partners to those girl children. In other words, raise your sons as you would love your husband to be, and raise your daughters how you would love your own mother, daughter, and wife to be. So see you some other time. Thank you, everyone.
I want to thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for your time today. Special thank you to all the panelists. A very special thank you to all the people that have been watching our various platforms from YouTube to Facebook, our 24 hours web TV, which is www.gbkm.tv. And do not forget to download our app. I think it's on this side of the screen, on Apple Store. Now we are giving out $50 gift card if you download it now and then take a screenshot and email it to admin@gbkm.fm. Let me again thank, and it's very big thank you to the author of the book, my father, my daughter. Thank you very much for sponsoring this show. I want you all to support. We are 24 hours web radio stations. Again, gbkm.tv. We have various shows. On our new app, you can see beside me where you can actually listen to the radio or watch the TV. Thank you very much, and we love you, we love you, we love you. Have a wonderful day, and have a wonderful day, and have a GBKM day. Bye for now.
Now, we can officially say that the app is out, but only for now in the App Store, so only for our Apple users. I'm sorry, Android, we're just gonna have to wait just a little bit longer, but don't worry, that's coming for you too. But you can get the GBKM app right on the App Store, where you can do everything you can do on the website. Check out the past shows, check out upcoming shows, you get notifications from when we go live, so you can just take us on the go with you everywhere you go, and you won't have to worry about missing a future